Ray's eyes widened as he realized the truth. The dragon outside was a prototype. This one, the one in the tank, was the original, the source, the first of its kind. He moved closer, trying to make sense of the tangled mess of wires and glowing symbols that surrounded the tank. A terminal on the wall flickered to life as he approached. Project Skyfire. Genetic modification complete. Ray's blood ran cold. This was no accident. Earth had been experimenting with genetic engineering, creating creatures with advanced abilities. Weapons. But the creatures had escaped. And now, they were out of control. The system beeped and whirred, another message flashing across the screen. Warning. Dragon containment breach imminent. Release protocol active. Ray's mind raced. The dragon outside was the result of this failed project. It was hunting him, protecting this chamber, and it knew the secrets buried within. It was only a matter of time before the system released more creatures, more dragons, more monsters. Ray knew one thing for certain now. He couldn't stay here. Not with the technology, not with the monsters. But as he turned to leave, the ground trembled again. The dragon was coming. Ray ran. The chamber doors slammed shut behind him. He had no choice now. The only way to survive was to reach the signal booster, activate the distress signal again, and pray that help would come before it was too late. The battle was far from over. Now, it was a race against time. Ray's pulse raced as the ground trembled beneath his feet. The dragon's roar echoed through the air, growing louder, closer. The beast was coming. He had to move fast. He darted through the narrow passageways of the ancient facility, his breath heavy, his legs burning with exhaustion. His mind raced. His only hope was the signal booster, the drone. He had to get it into the air and send out the distress call before the dragon found him, before he became its next meal. He reached the narrow chamber where the drone had been waiting. The device hummed, its green light blinking urgently. Good. It was still online. Ray grabbed the drone and attached it to the signal booster. His hands were slick with sweat, but he didn't hesitate. He couldn't afford to. The dragon was getting closer. Click. The drone powered up. The signal booster flashed a steady green light, its beam extending into the sky. Ray took a breath, stepping back. It was working. The distress signal was being sent to Earth. But would anyone hear it? Would anyone come? Suddenly, the walls of the facility shook again. The sound of the dragon's wings flapping echoed through the halls, like thunder in a storm. Ray turned toward the entrance. It was here. He grabbed his knife and pistol, his eyes scanning the shadows. There was no time to waste. He ran toward the exit, but the door slammed shut. The beast had trapped him inside. Ray's heart pounded. There was no way out, no easy escape. He could hear the dragon's breath, deep, ragged, and filled with rage, coming from the other side of the wall. It knew he was here. Ray's mind raced for a plan. He couldn't hide forever. He had to fight back. But how? He didn't have the firepower to take down the dragon, not on his own. His eyes fell on the strange control panel beside him. The glowing symbols on the screen flickered. And then, a new message appeared. Containment breach imminent. Protocol initiated. Ray's heart skipped a beat. Was the facility preparing for something? Had the system detected the dragon's approach? The message continued. Releasing defensive drones. Activating defense grid. Defensive drones. Ray's eyes widened. Could it be true? Was the facility going to fight the dragon for him? He didn't wait to find out. He dashed down the hallway, the sound of his boots echoing in the cold metal corridors. His mind was focused. His thoughts were sharp. The defensive grid was still a few rooms ahead. If he could reach it, he might have a chance. The Starfire's weapons activated, missiles launched, exploding on impact, and the Valif ships were thrown into chaos. Leo grinned. This is just the beginning. Drakkar ripped through the remaining ships, tearing them apart with his claws and breath. But even as victory seemed within reach, a massive shadow loomed in the distance, An enormous Valith flagship. "We're not done yet," Leo said. "Let's finish this." The Valith flagship loomed over them, dark and menacing, its massive cannons charging up with energy. The Starfire darted around, trying to avoid the deadly blasts. Leo gripped the controls tightly, sweat trickling down his forehead. "Everyone, hold on," Leo shouted as he pulled the ship into a hard turn. "Drakkar, can you get us close?" Drakkar's glowing eyes locked onto the massive flagship. His voice was a low growl. "I'll do more than get us close. I'll tear it apart." Syra turned to Leo, her expression serious. "This is our last chance. If we don't take that flagship down, the rebellion ends today. The Valith will crush everything we've built." Leo nodded. "We're not giving up. We're winning this." Drakkar let out a mighty roar, and with a flap of his wings, he launched himself out of the Starfire. The dragon shot toward the flagship, flames streaming behind him. His massive body cut through space, faster than any ship could follow. "We've got to keep them distracted," Syra said, her hands moving quickly over the controls. She aimed the Starfire's weapons at the flagship, firing missiles that exploded against its shields. Leo's eyes were glued to the view screen. "It's not enough. Their shields are too strong." Syra growled. "We need to hit their power core. If we can knock out their shields, we'll have a shot." But the Valith flagship didn't wait. Massive plasma beams fired from the ship, one after another, each one getting closer. One beam struck the Starfire's tail, sending sparks flying. "Hold together, hold together," Leo shouted as he fought to keep the ship steady. Another beam hit the ship's side, and the controls short-circuited. The Starfire shuddered. "We've lost power," Syra yelled. Leo's heart pounded. "We need to get closer. Now." The flagship was almost upon them. But just as Leo thought they were done for, a blinding flash of light filled the sky. Drakkar had reached the flagship. The dragon slammed into the enemy ship, his claws digging into the metal hull. His massive wings beat hard, sending tremors through the flagship. Inside the Valith ship, alarms blared, and crew members scrambled in panic. Drakkar roared, his breath turning into a torrent of fire, melting through the outer plating. He tore through the flagship's hull like a hot knife through butter. "Let's finish this," Leo shouted as he fought to bring the Starfire back online. He pushed buttons, pulling wires, doing everything he could to restart the engines. Then the ship hummed back to life. Syra didn't hesitate. Weapons ready. The Starfire locked onto the flagship's weak spot, a small opening in the hull where Drakkar's attack had breached. Syra fired everything she had. Missiles, plasma shots, and laser beams rained down on the exposed core. Drakkar roared from the outside, pushing the flagship even further into chaos. His claws shredded through the ship's defenses, and his fire spread across the vessel. Leo's eyes locked onto the screen as the core began to glow bright red. "We did it," he whispered. Syra grinned. "Not yet." With a final burst of energy, the flagship exploded. The Starfire was rocked by the shockwave, but it held together. The massive Valith ship broke apart, and debris scattered into space. Leo let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. "We did it." Drakkar slowly circled the remains of the flagship, his wings glowing like fire. He flew back to the Starfire, landing with a mighty thud. "It's over," he said, his voice calm. Leo looked at Syra, then at the rebel fighters who had gathered behind them. Their faces were full of disbelief, but also hope. "This is only the beginning," Leo said. "The Valith will try to regroup, but now they know what we can do." Syra nodded, her face determined. "And we'll be ready." Leo looked up at the stars. The war wasn't over. But today, the rebels had struck a powerful blow against the Valith Empire. They had shown the galaxy that humans, dragons, and rebels could work together. Together, they were unstoppable. The Starborn resistance had risen. And now, They were going to take the fight to the Valeth, one battle at a time. The sound of the dragon's roar grew louder. Ray moved faster. He entered a large chamber, and there it was, a massive control room. At the center was a large terminal, its screen glowing with information. Ray quickly typed in commands, praying the system would still work. His fingers flew over the keys. A low hum filled the air. Then, a loud mechanical whir. Suddenly, from the walls, small drones shot out, swarming, humming, ready for battle. They hovered in the air, sharp and deadly, their laser sights locked onto the dragon's position. It was working. Ray grinned. But then the dragon's roar broke the silence. It was at the door now, claws scraping against the metal. The room shook as its weight pressed against the walls. The drones shot toward the door, firing their energy weapons. Blue beams of light struck the dragon's scales, but the creature barely flinched. Its wings snapped open, sending a gust of wind through the room, knocking some of the drones out of the air. Ray's stomach twisted. The drones weren't enough. The dragon was too strong. The creature let out a terrifying shriek, and in that moment, Ray realized something. This wasn't just a fight for survival. This was a fight for the future. He glanced back at the terminal. The defense grid was still active, but the drones were struggling to make an impact. The dragon wasn't going down so easily. Then Ray noticed something on the screen. A new message appeared. Warning. Project Skyfire self-destruct initiated. Detonation in 5 minutes. What? Ray's heart dropped. The entire facility was about to blow itself up. It was a fail-safe. The moment the system detected the dragon, it had started the countdown to destroy everything. Ray was stuck. He had 5 minutes to stop the dragon or escape. He looked back at the drones, still fighting the creature. The dragon was angry, lashing out with claws and fire. He needed more power, something to give him a fighting chance. Then, a plan formed in his mind. The energy grid. Ray knew from the data he had seen earlier that the energy grid was connected to the central core of the facility. If he could reroute the power to one of the defense systems, it might give him a shot. He sprinted back toward the main console. His fingers hit the keys faster than ever. He typed in a series of commands, feeling the sweat drip down his forehead. His mind was racing. The lights flickered. The energy surged. And then, boom! A massive explosion rocked the building, and Ray's body was thrown to the ground. He gasped, blinking away the stars in his eyes. The world around him was shaking, crumbling. The dragon screeched, but Ray couldn't see what was happening anymore. His vision was blurred. The countdown was ticking. 5 minutes. Would Earth's rescue come in time? The blast from the explosion sent a shockwave through the entire facility. Ray's head slammed into the cold metal floor, and for a few moments, everything was a blur of light and sound. His ears rang, his body ached, and his heart raced as he pushed himself up, struggling to steady his breath. The stars above were silent, as if they too were watching the aftermath of the fierce battle. The remains of the Valeth flagship floated like broken fragments in the void, evidence of the rebellion's victory. But for Leo, the fight wasn't over. He stood on the Starfire's bridge, staring out into the endless darkness. His mind raced with thoughts of what came next. Is it finally over? Thyra's voice came from behind him. She stood in the doorway, her face serious, yet filled with pride. Leo turned to face her. This is just the beginning. The Valeth won't stop. They'll send more ships, but we've shown them something they didn't expect. Zyra nodded. We've shown them what humans are capable of. Leo smiled. It wasn't just about the victory, though. It was about everything they had fought for. Earth was no longer the forgotten, weak species in the galaxy. They were the ones to be feared. We've sparked something, Leo said, looking back at the wreckage. The galaxy isn't going to be the same after this. Zyra's eyes darkened as she thought about the bigger picture. The Valeth won't just stand by. They'll regroup. They'll come back stronger. Drakkar, who had been resting in the back of the ship, stood and walked over to them. His scales shimmered in the light, his eyes glowing softly. "Let them come. We are ready." Leo turned to Drakkar. "You're right. We're ready. We have the support of the galaxy now. The Valith can't control it anymore." "Not just support," Zyra added, stepping up beside them. "We have a new alliance. Other species are seeing what humans and dragons can do together. The resistance is spreading. More will join our cause." Leo felt a weight lift off his shoulders. The burden of leadership had been heavy, but now he felt a sense of purpose. It wasn't just about fighting for survival anymore. It was about leading a revolution, a new dawn for the galaxy. The comms system beeped, pulling them back to reality. Thyra turned to the console. "We're getting a message from the Alliance fleet." She activated the transmission, and the face of the Vicarian commander appeared on the screen. The Vicarians were a race of huge, powerful beings who had once been enslaved by the Valith. "Leo Kane, Zyra, Drakkar," the Vicarian commander said, his voice deep and commanding. "We saw what you did. The galaxy is with you now. You have the full support of the Vicarian fleets. The Valith will fall." Leo's heart skipped a beat. The rebellion was no longer just a small band of outlaws. They were now part of a galactic movement. Every species, every race was watching. "We will not stop," Leo said, his voice filled with determination. "We will bring the Valith to their knees." The commander nodded. "We will provide reinforcements. We will stand with you." As the transmission ended, Leo turned to Zyra and Drakkar. "This is it. The galaxy is united. We have a chance to take back everything the Valith took from us." Drakkar growled softly, his eyes focused. "We fight until they are nothing." Zyra smiled. "We rise as one." But even as the Alliance prepared for the next battle, Leo couldn't shake the thought that the real fight was just beginning. They had won this battle, but there were more challenges ahead. The Valith Empire was vast, and they had powerful forces. But now, they had a new hope. The people of the galaxy were rising together. Leo walked toward the bridge's viewport and gazed out into the stars. A new era was dawning, one where humans would no longer be seen as weak. They had proven their worth, not just as survivors, but as warriors who would never back down. A voice crackled through the comms again, and Leo quickly answered it. It was a message from Earth, the first message from Earth in a long time. "We've been watching," the voice said. "We're ready to fight." The message was short, but it spoke volumes. Earth was no longer isolated. They had the galaxy's attention, and they would take their place as the leaders of a new age. Leo stood there, feeling the weight of it all. It was overwhelming, but he wasn't afraid. The fight had taken them this far, and now they were ready to finish it. "It's time to lead," Leo said softly. And with that, the Starfire left the debris of the Valith fleet behind. It sped into the unknown, heading toward the next battle. A new war was beginning, but this time, the humans would fight on their own terms. The Dragon Pit had not just been a place of death. It had been the beginning of a new dawn. And Leo Kane, the human soldier, was now its symbol of hope. Commander Ray Carter was one of the best pilots in Earth's Space Command. He had completed over 100 solo missions, explored deep space zones, and survived close encounters with deadly alien storms. But nothing prepared him for what happened on the planet Draconis. His ship, the Horizon Star, was flying near the edge of known space. He was sent to check an unknown signal. The source was strange. It came from a dead zone where no ships had ever returned. Ray sat calmly in the cockpit. His eyes watched the data on the screen. The signal was strong, pulsing like a heartbeat. He leaned forward, trying to trace its source. Suddenly, alarm screamed. "Warning! Gravitational pull increasing." Before Ray could react, the ship shook violently. He pulled the controls hard, but it was too late. A massive force dragged the ship down like a hand pulling a toy from the sky. Mayday! Mayday! Horizon star going down. Ray shouted into the comm, but static was his only reply. The blackness outside the window turned red. The ship's hull burned as it entered the atmosphere of the unknown planet. Fire wrapped around it. Ray's seat belts tightened as the ship hit something. Then another crash. Then darkness. Ray woke up with a sharp pain in his head. Blood ran down his forehead. Sparks fell from the ceiling of the ruined cockpit. Everything smelled like smoke and metal. He unbuckled himself and stumbled outside. The air was hot. The sky above was not blue. It was deep purple, with two suns burning far away. He looked around and saw giant black rocks, tall twisted trees, and bones. Bones the size of cars. "What is this place?" he whispered. He grabbed his small emergency bag and the last working piece of his scanner. No signal, no GPS, no satellite connection. He was truly alone. Ray walked away from the ship wreckage, careful with every step. The land was uneven, and strange red plants moved like they were alive. Then he heard it, a loud, low sound. A growl. It was not from any engine. It was not a machine. It was alive. Ray turned. Far in the distance, a huge shadow moved between two mountains. The ground shook. Dust lifted into the air. He saw the shape for only a second, but it was enough. Wings, horns, and eyes that glowed like burning stars. "A dragon," he said, barely breathing. The creature didn't see him. Not yet. It walked slowly toward the horizon, then disappeared behind a hill. Ray's heart raced. He had heard old stories about such creatures, myths from Earth's past. Dragons were fairy tales, monsters in old books. But this was real. He needed shelter. He ran toward a nearby rock formation that looked like a cave. The sun, or whatever the suns were, was starting to set. Darkness was coming fast. Inside the cave, it was cold and silent. He sat down, took out a small water pack, and tried to calm himself. Then he noticed something strange. The cave walls were smooth, too smooth, not natural. He walked deeper and saw markings on the walls. Not human, but intelligent, like symbols carved with claws or tools. Something lived here, or used to live here. He shined his light forward. Bones, dozens of them. Some small, like animals. Others, large. One looked like a human skull, but it was longer, twisted, not human. Suddenly, the ground shook again. He turned off the light. A shadow blocked the cave entrance. Breath, heavy breath. Smoke drifted in. Ray held his breath, heart pounding. The sound of claws on stone echoed inside the cave. Then a low growl. Deep, close. The creature had come home. Ray hid behind a large rock, his hand on his small laser pistol. He knew it wouldn't help. The dragon was too big, too strong. A loud sniff. The beast was smelling the air. Ray tried to stay perfectly still. Then, his foot had touched a bone on the floor. It snapped under his boot. Silence. Then a roar so loud the cave walls shook. The dragon's head entered the cave. Its eyes glowed like fire. Smoke poured from its nostrils. Ray raised his pistol, but he knew it was useless. This was not a rescue mission anymore. This was survival. The escape pod soared into the sky, cutting through thick clouds. Behind it, flames still burned from the dragon pit explosion. Inside, Leo Kane checked the controls. "We've got enemy ships on our tail. 3, maybe 4. Drakkar, the massive dragon, looked through the pod's small window. "They're fast." Leo nodded. "And they're armed." A sharp alarm beeped. Target locked. Incoming missiles minus 20 seconds. Leo stood quickly. This pod wasn't made for battle. "Then we stop being prey," Drakkar growled. "Let me out." Leo stared. Out. You'll fall. I won't fall, the dragon said. I'll fly. Before Leo could argue, Drakkar slammed his claws into the side door. With one hard push, the emergency hatch opened. The air roared around them, pulling at everything. Trust me, Drakkar said. Leo gave a nod. Drakkar leaped into the sky. For a second, he dropped. Then, with a mighty flap of his wings, he rose, faster than the falling missiles. The enemy ship spotted him and opened fire. Green plasma bolts streaked across the clouds. Drakkar twisted in midair, flames glowing in his throat. He breathed fire, cutting across two ships. One exploded. The other spun out of control, crashing into a nearby mountain. Leo watched through the pod window, stunned. A dragon, in space combat, he whispered. They're not ready for this. Drakkar flew in fast loops, dodging every blast. His fire wasn't just hot, it was plasma-enhanced, part of the Earth experiment long ago. His breath melted steel like ice. The last enemy ship tried to run. Drakkar roared and shot forward, his claws tearing into the engine. The ship exploded in a flash of blue light. The sky went quiet. Leo breathed out slowly. He did it. But peace didn't last long. Warning. Fuel low. Escape pod will crash in 30 seconds. Leo grabbed the controls. We're going down. He reached for the communicator, hoping someone, anyone, was listening. This is Sergeant Leo Kane, human survivor. We escaped the dragon pit. I repeat, we're coming down. Emergency landing. Coordinates incoming. The signal died. Below, a large forest stretched across the planet. No cities, no towers, just trees and rivers. Leo aimed the pod toward an open clearing. Brace for impact. The pod slammed into the ground, tearing through trees and soil. Sparks flew. Metal groaned. Finally, it stopped, smoking and broken. Leo pushed the door open and fell out, coughing. A moment later, Drakkar landed beside him, wings wide, smoke rising from his scales. You all right? Leo asked. The dragon nodded. Nothing broken. Leo looked around. Where are we? Drakkar sniffed the air. Not far from the capital city, but this place is quiet. Just then, a branch snapped. Leo pulled out a small energy knife from the pod. We're not alone. Shapes moved through the trees, alien rebels, hiding their faces, dressed in rough gear. They pointed rifles at Leo. One stepped forward, a tall female alien with orange eyes. She stared at Leo. You're the human who fell into the pit, she said. Leo stood firm and lived. Her eyes moved to Drakkar and brought a dragon. We're not your enemy, Leo said. The Valith threw me away, like they did to many others. The rebels lowered their weapons slightly. We've heard stories, the leader said, that a human survived, that the dragon bowed to him. Drakkar stepped forward. We are not myths. We are the storm that comes after silence. The rebels whispered among themselves. Leo spoke loudly, clearly. We want the same thing. Freedom. You fight from the shadows. But now you have something stronger. He pointed to Drakkar. A living weapon. A memory of Earth's power. And I remember how to lead. The rebel leader looked at him carefully, then gave a small nod. We will take you to our camp. Leo and Drakkar followed the rebels deeper into the woods. As they walked, Leo asked, how many of you are there? Thousands, the leader said, across the stars, waiting for a sign. Leo looked up at the sky. Smoke still rose from the destroyed pit far behind them. Well, he said, I think we just gave them one. Drakkar growled softly. And now, we prepare for war. The night on Draconis was not silent. Winds howled through sharp black mountains. Red lightning lit up the sky. Distant roars echoed like thunder. Ray Carter sat alone on a rocky ledge, staring into the dark valley below. He had survived, for now, but the dragon was still alive. And worse, it knew about him now. It had seen him, smelled him, hunted him. Ray clutched his small knife. His laser pistol had only one shot left. His body ached from the crash and the cave escape, but his mind was sharp. "I'm not prey," he whispered to himself. "Not anymore." As the two moons rose high, Ray saw something glowing in the valley below. His wrecked ship, parts of it were still burning. But he also saw movement. Shapes. Small, fast shapes. Not the dragon. Something else. Ray slid down the rocks quietly. He stayed low, using shadows for cover. His boots crunched on the dry soil. As he got closer, he saw them, creatures the size of wolves, with long tails and sharp teeth. They circled his ship. Scavengers. They were pulling metal pieces, digging through his supplies. Ray felt a mix of anger and fear. If they took the last of his gear, he wouldn't survive another day. He picked up a small rock and threw it far into the dark. It hit a metal pipe. Clang! The creatures turned toward the sound and ran. Ray moved fast, grabbing his emergency bag from the wreckage. Inside, he found what he needed: flare rounds, a signal booster, and a small drone. Still alive, still working. Suddenly, a loud growl filled the air. Not the scavengers. Something bigger. Ray froze. The dragon had returned. He looked up and saw it standing on a high ridge, its wings stretched wide, glowing slightly under the moons. Its eyes locked onto Ray like a hawk spotting prey. It wasn't chasing anymore. It was watching, studying, waiting. Ray ran. He sprinted into the dark forest, not caring about branches cutting his face or thorns tearing his suit. The trees here were strange, twisting, moving slightly like they were alive. But he had no choice. He ran until his legs screamed in pain. Finally, he reached a cliff with a cave below. He slid down the slope and ducked inside, breathing hard. This cave was different. Cold, silent. The air smelled like metal and stone. As he walked deeper, his flashlight caught something shocking. Walls made of smooth silver, symbols glowing faintly. Machines. Ancient, but advanced. Ray stepped into the chamber. In the center was a tall black structure, shaped like a tower, humming with energy. Then he saw the writing. Not in any known alien language. English. One word stood out. Pro-GCT-SKY Earth Research Facility, Outpost 9. Ray stepped back, stunned. Earth was here, he whispered. Before. The pieces clicked in his mind. The cave, the tech, the dragon. This wasn't just a wild planet. This was an old Earth experiment, a secret mission, long forgotten. And the dragon, it wasn't native. It was made. A weapon. Maybe it escaped. Maybe it protected this place. Or maybe it was guarding something worse. Ray turned as the ground shook again. Boom. Boom. The dragon was near. But now Ray had something more than fear. He had knowledge. He had the truth. And he had one goal: survive long enough to use it. He checked the booster in his hand. One signal could reach Earth. One shot. He connected it to the drone. But he needed time. He placed the drone on the floor, hit the launch command, and watched it float up into the air. Outside, another roar. Ray stood at the cave entrance, knife in one hand, pistol in the other. His eyes locked on the trees. He wasn't running anymore. He was ready. Tonight, the hunter would become the hunted.